Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's November 12th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And we had a nice strong rally right out of the gate this morning. Of course, we hit the 3,100 level. I think I said 4,000 yesterday in my video. Um, I'm getting a little about 900 points ahead of us there, so it should have said 3,100, not 4,100 or 4,000 or whatever I said. So. But anyway, we hit that 3,100 level today, and those century marks are they're pretty critical levels. They tend to be very emotional levels, and a lot of times when you hit those, uh, you'll prices will test both sides of those multiple times before they move on again or either sell off. It's not unusual to get some really um, quick and fast sell-offs when you reach these new highs. I mean, these are all-time highs we're hitting again, so the market can get a little emotional and a little out of whack at times. You can have quick moves in either direction. So just be aware of that while we're hitting these new highs and stuff. Um, but yeah, we had a nice move up and then we took it all back. And we ended up closing up a little bit. This was our close from yesterday. So we ended up closing up just a little bit, not much, as you can see. Actually, we closed up here. So we closed up 3 or 4 points, and we've taken some of that back since then. So again, not a lot of trades today. I just didn't get any signal bars myself. You might have had a little better chart than I did, but most of these, the best setups here were, this would have been a good one. Of course, I didn't get a signal bar. This might have been a good one right here. I didn't get a signal bar. Um, it's frustrating when those days happen, but sometimes it comes up that way. Maybe you had good signal bars on those entries, and if you did, by all means, you'd want to take those trades. So, um, I mean, this is a second entry short. This is a second entry short here. There's an seemed like there was another one. These are all great longs. However, they're so far away from the EMA. However, when you get a really strong trend like this, and this is a strong trend, when you start to see lots of little bitty bars that just keep going higher and higher and bouncing off the trend line, at some point you just have to take those trades. First entry, doesn't matter if it's second entry, doesn't matter. As long as you get a good signal bar off the key entry point, you just about have to take those, even though you're getting a long way away from the EM. Now, once you've had your break and a new high, I wouldn't be so aggressive up here because you see it's not long before it reverses. However, um, right in here, you just about have to take these. It really wasn't clear until we got up in here. And this one I was a little worried about because you had the overshoot. Usually when you get an overshoot like that, it's not long at all until you get a break. And you can see we got a break right here. But we still pushed on up quite a bit before prices sold off. And that's because it was a strong trend. And I would have measured this first leg up right here and look for a measured leg up from there. And you can see that gives you a target right in here where we got, but we pushed a little bit higher than that. And that just shows you it was a pretty strong move up. So even though these are green, if you recognize this kind of trend, you probably may want to take these trades. This is a second entry. However, like I said, we had the overshoot here. And generally when you get that overshoot, it's not long at all before you have a break. And that came right here. And you might have even taken this trade right here. You could argue for it to be green because that's the first break of a really strong trend up. And you're going to at least probably try to meet this measured move and make a new high. So you may take that one too. I should have probably marked it green as well. But you could argue for this one to be even blue. So, but let's talk about the trades and we'll go from there. 7 o'clock came right in this little move right here down. Um, and of course you would have wanted to draw your trend line here. Um, and then of course it jumps up. Um, and you come back and you get a first entry, you pull back, and you get that second entry, and that confirms that trend line. I originally had it drawn a little steeper and I moved it down when the closes here were a little lower, but it's still same difference. It's still second entry long, confirming that trend line. It's not a perfect signal bar, but it's good enough. I mean, you're making higher lows here each time, and you get a second entry, and that thing takes on off. So that was probably the best trade of the morning until you get up here in this downtrend. So if you miss that one and you don't recognize this is a strong trend, you may skip all of these trades right here, and you don't get anything till you get a little failed second entry long up here that gives you where the market's reversing. And you're looking for it to reverse up here soon. And this is a good example. That was very tempting to want to go short because you got your break and two legs up and you're a long way away from the EMA, and you might have even got out of that with a scalp. But this is why you need to almost wait on a lower high, because you'll get fooled and it runs up and then finally you get a lower high and then it turns down. And you need that confirmation that the market's making lower highs before you try to. And even here it's a little dangerous trying to pick tops, but being that far away from the EMA on a failed second entry long and a big bearish bar, I'm probably going to take that trade every time with all the rest of this having played out like it did. So, but anyway, let me back up just a little bit. This was a failed second entry short right here. And the only reason I didn't mark it blue is because it's right into these highs over here. And this could end up being a range day. So even though you're looking for a possible measured move, it could also be a range day. And then so that makes that one hard to take. The problem, the other thing is it's only about 3 ticks in that bar. It's very tiny. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger actually. You can see how small that bar. Maybe there's only 2 ticks. There's only 1 or 2 ticks in that bar. So it's very low risk. It is right off a trend line that's been confirmed multiple times. It is starting to look like a strong trend. So you may take that trade. And if you had it, you would have had a runner here, and you could have ridden that all the way up. Again, you get a second entry long right here. Notice the new high, pullback first entry. It didn't break lower, but it's still a second entry. There's a lower high right there. It's a second entry long. Right off the key entry point, a nice bullish bar. The problem was you had this overshoot right here, and you came off the midline, so we could be going back to the trend line, although this trend line's still in play here, and it's probably going to play out as strong as it's been. And notice it runs on up, and then you come back, and now you get your break, which is not to be unexpected because you had an overshoot here, another big bullish bar. So again, if you got room to get out, you may go long, and you may take it anyway because you're probably going to make a new high here, and this thing just continues on up. But I think it's too dangerous up here to enter long anymore. You want to start looking for a lower high and maybe a chance to get short, which comes right here, and you can ride that down. Then it runs up first entry, and there's a second entry short right there with still plenty of room even back to this trend line, which is still in play at that point. But it's not a very good signal bar for me. You wouldn't want to take this one even if you had a good signal bar because it's right into the trend line. And you wouldn't really want to go long there either. I'd want a little better setup than that. I'd want at least a higher low right there, and it never triggered. It tried to give you a little double bottom, but it never triggered. Then it runs down and gives you a failed second entry long. Notice that swing, first entry, second entry. It's right off that key entry point. Again, a real small bar. And that's looking like one of those kind of strong trends down now. So I like going short there. There's another big bearish bar right here, but it's right into a 2-bar low, not much room. Comes back yet again. Same thing. You just don't have much room. That's another one that you could argue for it to be at least green, because this is looking like a strong trend. It doesn't look as much like one as it does over here. And the reason being, I'll explain this to you in a minute. The reason being is you're seeing some stem, but you're not seeing as much. Notice how you see a lot of little doji looking bars in there. And even though you're coming down here, you don't see a whole lot of little dojis until right in here. And then it doesn't go much further before you get a break. So this one just doesn't quite have the same look as what you like to see when it looks like a really strong trend. And obviously this one wasn't, because it wasn't long before you had a break. It didn't run like this big trend did here. And again, you get a second entry short right here. If you had a really good signal bar on your chart, by all means take that trade. Comes back here and gives you a lower high. Again, if you had a really good signal bar, you might consider that one too. You come back, and then finally you do get a good signal bar, but now you've had a break and you've had a couple of legs down. I'm real leery of that, and when it fails and turns up, I'd go long right there. And you could really argue. The only reason I didn't make this one blue was because it's right into the EMA. If it had closed on the other side, I'd say, yeah, maybe it has to break above the other side anyway. So it's real close to being blue. It's just not a perfect setup, but you did have your break and two legs down, and you do have a little fake out here that looks like a trap. So I wouldn't be afraid to take that and call that just blue almost green or green almost blue. I marked it green, but you could really go with it either way. It's right there on the borderline, and that turns out to be a pretty good trade, although you run into this resistance right here. And then you notice you really had a double test right here, but not a very good signal bar. But then you come back again, and now you got a big bearish signal bar. So I like going short there. Guess what? That gets exactly 6 ticks from here to here, which is exactly what it takes to scalp out and get 4 ticks. There's a reason why we pick 4 ticks, and that's one of them, because you'll get that. It's amazing how many times you'll get exactly 4 ticks and you can't get 1 tick more and it reverses. And if you try to get 1 more tick than 4 ticks here, you'd have got stopped out only to watch it go exactly where you thought it was. So it comes back. I don't like going long here. I really thought maybe we'd get a lower high, but it does run up and make a higher high and then a lower high. And it's, again, you get a very small, looks like maybe 2 ticks in that bar on a second entry short. There's a new low there, first entry, second entry. I like going short there and treating that like a failed breakout as well. You might have even gone short on that first one, but I'd wait on a lower high here just to be sure, just to get a little more confirmation, and the bottom just falls out of it. And again, you come back to the key entry point, and I don't get a signal bar on mine. If you got a good signal bar, by all means take it. You come back a third time here, but now you're going short right into the lows of the day. It's just too dangerous right across there. That was the close from yesterday, and we had quite a bit of support across there earlier this morning. And I just don't think it's smart to go short into that with no more room than that. Turns out it's a great trade, but you don't know that ahead of time. And of course we get a bounce, and that takes us into 2 o'clock. So again, there's a lot of movement today, and really there were a lot of places that you had some setups, but they just didn't set up well on my chart. So maybe, hopefully, some of y'all had some better trades in those locations than I did. You know, it's sometimes it works out like that. People will say, why do you worry about the signal bar? Well, trust me, the next time you try to take this trade when it sets up like that, you'll get burned. Just like right here, that looked like a really good setup on the second entry, but your signal bar, and look, it runs up, stops you out, and then it goes right where you thought it was going to go. So actually on this one, you may not have got stopped out because it never ticked that 1 tick higher. So maybe you wouldn't have got stopped out on that one. I probably wouldn't ride that out going sideways that much trying to go higher. But that's a good example of what can happen to you. It's just not worth that. Using the signal bar as a filter has saved me so many times. I'm a believer in it. Some people will tell you don't worry about the signal bar, but I think that's a huge mistake. It saves me a lot of times. And here's a good example, maybe right here, where you had a first entry long, a second entry long, and you don't have a very good signal bar. Prices tick 1 or 2 ticks lower, just enough to stop you into going short, and then it reverses. Of course, you may not have been looking for a short there, but that's just a good example of what they look like. And they'll get you sometimes. So Just be careful with them. Anyway, um, that's all I saw. That's what I saw today. Not a lot of trades again. There's a little more. Today was a little better than yesterday, and there was some good movement. And like I said, some of y'all may have had some better signal bars on some of these, so they may have worked out for you. Just might have been my day to have a chart where I didn't get a lot of good signal bars. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.